The call to action on your web pages, EDM, as well as social media can be quite different from that of a presentation because there are multiple touch points on a website and you can not just use one call to action button, but 2 or 3, depending on how you want the customer experience to be. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of how this can be employed. This is the very first example by Build Fire. You might have seen this before. It's basically when you enter a web page, maybe after you've scrolled past a certain percentage of the content, this particular pop-up window would appear. Or when you are about to exit this particular site, the pop-up button will appear. So the trigger condition can be quite different depending on how you want the experience to be. So in this particular case, the headline actually creates some form of interest. Why build a mobile app when no one uses it? So suppose that this is very targeted towards people who build mobile applications, and it also poses a question that gets people to think about the problem. When nobody is using the app, then is it really successful? Thereby inviting people to download this free guide. And you also notice something quite interesting. Typically, there is only one call to action button, but in this case, there are 2. Number 1, it's for yes, and this, instead of just download now, it is written as yes, send it to me. Using the word me is very personal. So try to see opportunities on your content side to see if you are able to use words like that. And then also, rather than just putting the X button, there is another option. No thanks, I'll take the risk. This is what we call the crossroad technique. Basically, you want to contrast 2 alternatives so that it makes people more likely to go with one. In this case, it is yes, send it to me. And the interesting part about the call to action, which is no, is that it's very likely that people would not click that because it talks about what's at stake, right? I will take the risk. And people don't want to take the risk. So it gets them thinking. And I believe this also increased the conversion or clicks. So this is one example that you can employ on a web page. Then for this, it can be in a form of EDM or a web page as well. As you see, there is one call to action button, download the free guide. And before that, all it takes is one idea, one strategy, one tactic, or one shift to make a massive difference in your membership and boost your bottom line. It talks about the outcome, which is boost your bottom line. And also, it invites people to think, hey, maybe this book can give me what I need in order to make that difference. Maybe this book contains that idea, that strategy or tactic that can really move the needle. There's no harm because it's free, right? Click on the button. And this is another example in a form of an EDM. In this case, you can see that there are a few words or keywords being used here that create a sense of urgency. For example, going fast, right? Or early bird tickets. And also what is very clever is that instead of just featuring the savings in the description text, they use that under here, save $400. Register now. So what we are doing here is to unbury the key message or unburying the enticing fact. And it's more likely that people would want to click on this in order to save money. And this is the last example. In this case, there are 2 call to action buttons. The very first one, it's the most obvious, register now. And then it talks about 3 reasons why you can't miss this particular event, Zoomtopia. And this is the very clever bit. So it preempts the reason why people might not necessarily register for this event. Maybe they have to convince their bosses first. And in one of the many different gaps, we talk about knowledge gap, emotional gap, as well as capabilities gap, as what is stopping people from taking action. This is what we call a capabilities gap that we are trying to fill. Basically, people are interested, but they are not capable in order to take the action. So you're giving them a tool. In this case, it's download a letter to give people a few ideas of how they can pitch to the boss or justify to their bosses why they should attend this particular event. And once you click on a button, it would bring you to a content site with an email template that you can just copy and paste and send it to your boss. It makes it very, very easy.